I know more about Tinkerbell than I even thought there was to know. In my last video, I covered the Pixie Hollow books, the manga, and the movies, and a flood of comments warned me that that was only the tip of the iceberg. Now let's move on to the shaft of the iceberg. With this continuation, that is disgusting. I hate that intro, that's the worst. Light switch check. Let's begin. Butt lovers, welcome back to the Lore and Re-Explore series. Usually I cover TV shows and movies no one else is brave enough to, but with this topic, I think the unhingedness comes from pure dedication. As always, my videos are not intended for kids. I say bad words and the shit is not good for their development. But back to Tinkerbell. If Disney's mascot was not Mickey the Mouse, it would be Tinkerbell the Fairy, the sassy little embonpoint girl in STEM from Neverland. The land of fairies known as Pixie Hollow has expanded in so many ways, and very recently too. The first book in this new series about steampunk fairies was released in 2024, and this romance novel about the Fairy Queen was released in 2025.
K-I-S-S-I-N-G.
That's right, there's romance in the Tinkerbell universe, and it is so dramatic. Something the Lovebirds, Queen Clarion, and Lord Milori really would have benefited from is better communication. If only they had this video's sponsor, the Paired app. The Paired app focuses on strengthening relationships through answering fun prompts and quizzes with your partner. As many of you know, I am married, and sometimes me and Ben have really long lulls in our conversation that look a little something like this. Did I tell you about the time that... Yeah, we've talked about that probably like 3 times, but we could talk about it again. No, dude, I want to talk about something new. Wonderful weather we're having. When you've been together as long as Ben and I have, approaching 9 years, you think, oh, this is normal. I guess we just talked about everything there is to talk about. No. I'm surprised how much self-reflection I've done through the Paired app. And it really sparked meaningful and productive conversation between me and my husband. The topics range from sex and intimacy, to dealing with conflict, to friends and family, and much, much more. Depending on what kind of relationship you're in and what milestones you've passed as a couple, there's even more topics. Ben and I have specifically been focusing on cohabiting prompts. I really look forward to seeing his answers, seeing where our perspective differs, and talking about it more. I'm very much a type A personality, and Ben is a type B personality, so a lot of the times when we talk, he lets me lead the conversation, but what's really cool about the Paired app is he doesn't see my response until after he answers, so we are very honest with each other. I wish I discovered the Paired app sooner. It's super fun, easy to use, and I've heard Ben say repeatedly that this is his favorite sponsor I've ever gotten. Click my link below to get a 7-day free trial and 25% off Paired Premium so you can continue to deepen your connection with your partner. Thank you so much to the Paired app for sponsoring today's video. Now back to the never-ending lore of Tinkerbell.
Never say never.
As always, with the few times I read, we are breaking this down post-it note by post-it note. Some of these I needed to get in online PDF format, but let's begin with the first book in the Never Girls series, In a Blink. In this series, we always have the same breakdown about Neverland. It goes a little something like this. There are 2 ways to reach Neverland. One is to find the island yourself. The other is for it to find you. Finding Neverland on your own takes a lot of luck, and a pinch of fairy dust. Even then, you will only find the island if it wants to be found. Every once in a while, Neverland drifts close to our world. So close a fairy's laugh slips through, and every once in an even longer while, Neverland opens its doors to a special few. Believing in magic and fairies from the bottom of your heart can make the extraordinary happen. But if you suddenly hear tiny bells or feel a sea breeze where there is no sea, pay careful attention. Neverland may be close by. You could find yourself there in the blink of an eye. We've heard this so many times before, in so many different ways. But at the end of this prologue, we are introduced to what's to come in a way that is just so formulaic, and honestly, the predictability is comforting. One day, 4 special girls came to Neverland in just this way. This is their story. Tell me you can't hear that in a narrator's voice, and cinematic music at the very end of that, cutting to the title screen. Next page, we got a damn map.
I'm the map, I'm the map, I'm the map!
The book opens with Kate. Now, who is Kate? Well, something tells me she craves excitement, and that something is the back of this book. No joke, the breakdown is so helpful. When I follow more than 2 characters, I need a clear guide. So yeah, you already know Kate craves adventure and excitement. Mia loves dresses, roses, and anything beautiful. Lainey dreams of talking to animals, and Gabby... well, Gabby believes in fairies more than anyone else. But who's that little one? Oh my god, it's Tinkerbell, the titular bitchular. US $6.99, Canada $9.50. Okay, we got everything we needed to know from that back page alone. Let's get into the meat and potatoes. Kate kept hearing the sound of bells as she and her friends played monkey in the middle. Then, conveniently, Lainey the animal lover saw a flock of flamingos flying overhead. I've actually never been more jealous of anyone ever. Flamingos? Thought Lainey, that can't be right. Lainey's 3rd grade science book had a picture of a flamingo in it. Flamingos lived in warm, sunny places. They lived near oceans and lakes. They didn't live in cities like Lainey's. Maybe her glasses were playing tricks on her. Lainey took them off and rubbed them on her shirt. Don't you hate it when your glasses get so dirty you hallucinate? Ma'am, you are just so darn good looking, I'm giving you $1 million. Oh my goodness, wow, wait. That can't be right. Let me clean my glasses. Yeah, so like I said, hand over the money and no one gets hurt. Oh my god! Ow! Oh, you got bullshit all over my glasses. Damn, that's crazy. Anyway, I'm a flamingo. Oh dear god. Gabby is Mia's younger sister, and I imagine through meeting the fairies, they'll get closer, because this is a rough first interaction. Gabby, Mia shouted at her little sister. She was headed right for Kate, who was chasing the ball. Watch out! Too late, Gabby slammed into Kate. Both girls tumbled to the ground. Gabby, Mia hollered again, annoyed. Quit getting in the way! Gabby sat up. She straightened the costume fairy wings she was wearing. I wasn't getting in the way, she said. Kate got in my way. I was flying. You were not flying, Mia said. You were being a pest. I love how aggressively cute the younger sister is. I was flying with my wings. And how aggressively aggressive the older sister is. You know what else flies? Pests! And I'm calling the exterminator! It's to the point where even Mia's friends are siding with Gabby. It's okay, said Kate, getting up from the grass. Gabby, do you want to play with us? Yes, said Gabby. At the same moment, Mia said, no. I get it, it's realistic. I feel as awkward as the friends having to witness this. The first fairy the girls meet is Prilla. You know, from the Pixie Dust trilogy. Maybe this will jog your memory. Prilla went on a world tour to encourage all the human kids to save Mother Dove. I don't want my God to die, so clap if you believe. I guess I do. Clap if you believe. Okay, sure. Clap if you believe. You still don't know what I'm talking about, do you? It's quite simple. Children believing is the fairy's life source. And Prilla is the only one with the talent of teleportation, which definitely helps because seeing is believing. And being put on the spot also helps. Hello, fairy, Gabby said. I'm Prilla, said the fairy. Clap if you believe in fairies. No one believed more than Gabby. She clapped her hands hard. Prilla the fairy turned a happy cartwheel in the air. I have to go now, said Prilla. Because Gabby held on to Prilla while Prilla was in the middle of teleporting, all the new human girl main characters are teleported with her. They are in Neverland now. The book would be a lot shorter if that didn't happen. Take fast. The inclusion of Prilla as well as the fairies referring to the humans as clumsies feels like this was a continuation of the Pixie Hollow books. This is when I was starting to put all the pieces of the puzzle together. The first book in the Never Girls series was released in 2013, 5 years after the first Tinkerbell movie. Disney continuing to use Prilla, despite the fact that she isn't in any of the movies, was a really smart move because they don't want the books that came out in 2005 to feel outdated by a movie that came out in 2008. It's like Disney was scrambling. Guys, look, they're still friends, see? During the movies, Prilla must have just been doing, like something else or something. If we're forcing this all into one timeline, this clearly takes place before Tinkerbell and the Great Fairy Rescue, because Tinkerbell is still rude as shit to these kids. The girls scrambled to get a closer look. Ooh, see her tiny ponytail and her little leaf dress? Look at the pom-poms on her shoes. She's so cute. I'm not cute, Tinkerbell exclaimed. Tink had never been very fond of clumsies, except for Peter Pan, of course. And these girls seemed like a particularly silly bunch. Prilla, these girls don't belong in Pixie Hollow. Send them home! I know I already mentioned this in my first video, but hating on the creatures that give you life is so weird. Oh, I hate the fact that you give me oxygen so much! Ow! Oh, you've done it this time. No, seriously, I'm not even exaggerating. Chapter 4 starts with Tinkerbell lamenting about the kids. Tink stomped her tiny foot in the air. Somehow she'd gotten stuck with the clumsies. Tink would rather have had her wings dipped in mud. Why me? She grumbled to herself. The girls are in awe of all of this magical splendor that is Pixie Hollow. We see Queen Clarion, one half of the power couple seen in Wings of Starlight. We hear more of the fairy culture established in the OG Pixie Hollow series. They don't say sorry to apologize. They say, I'd fly backwards if I could. Which I think means I wish I could take it back, because literally flying backwards doesn't seem that difficult for them to do. It seems entirely possible. Dude, I would do one whole push-up if it meant you'd see how sorry I am. Okay, go ahead. What? Do the push-up. Prove you're sorry. I don't want to. You said it would prove how sorry you are. You ran over my chinchilla. I can't believe you'd try to make me do a push-up when I said no. You're a bad friend. In almost every Pixie Hollow media you consume, Terrence is completely unavoidable. He is the Ken to Tinkerbell's Barbie. But that comparison doesn't work, because Tinkerbell is more of a Bratz girl. Clumsies go home, Tink said matter-of-factly. Unless they have no homes to go back to, then they stay lost in Neverland forever. The way she said forever sent a shiver down Kate's spine. But she said, the ones who do go home, they come back to visit sometimes, don't they? No, they don't, Tink said with a shrug. They go home and grow up. And when they grow up, they forget. Neverland seems like something they once dreamed. The girls were quiet, thinking about this. It was hard for them to imagine ever forgetting such a wonderful place. This is more accurate to the original Tinkerbell that fist-fought Wendy. In the movies where Tinkerbell is the main lead, the titular bitchular, the characterization couldn't be any more different. I don't know why I was surprised to find so many connections between the Nevergirl series and the original Pixie Hollow books, because guess who Kiki Thorpe is?
What? Who is that? The author of the
Disney fairy books. I think Terrence is supposed to be like the anti-Peter Pan, but he just likes girls too much. It's getting late, Prilla said, glancing at the sun. We can see more of Pixie Hollow tomorrow. Come visit any time, Terrence told the girls as he shut the doors of the mill. He said you up. They take the time to show us this note that would not comfort Mia and Gabby's parents at all. Dear Mommy and Poppy, how are you? We are fine. We are visiting in Neverland. It's nice here. Please tell the other moms don't worry. And if that isn't enough, Prilla doesn't even successfully deliver it. Prilla placed the note on the doorstep. Then she blinked away. Too soon to see the wind pick up and carry the note away. This feels cruel. Until you realize that when someone teleports via Prilla's blink, it seems like no time has passed. How convenient. The Doc McStuffins approach. Page 67. Not much is happening. We're just figuring out how they got there. Apparently, the only reason the girls were able to be brought to Neverland is because Neverland was close to Earth. As we discussed, Neverland only makes itself known when it wants. Prilla may have made a mistake in bringing the kids here, but Neverland didn't. Our new main characters are only the main characters because Neverland deemed it so. And listen to this piece of tech from Sky the Seeing Fairy. Glasses? Asked Kate. She had been expecting something more exciting. I told you I'm the Seeing Fairy, you ungrateful shit. You need to visit an optometrist. Nearsighted, farsighted, I'm still pissed. My name is Sky and you just got dissed. I'm just having a cheeky laugh. Here's what actually happened. Kate put on the glasses. Instead of seeing the forest in front of her, she saw a familiar front door. I can see my house, she cried. She got doxxed. She's a little scared. The other girls tried the glasses too. They all saw their own homes. But why does it look so misty? Lainey asked. The glasses tell you how close to the mainland you are. The farther away you are, the harder it is to see, Sky said. It explains her talent a little bit, but it kind of encroaches on tinkering. I really feel like the other talents shouldn't be able to make such a high-tech invention. That's the tinkering fairies' whole thing. That's another way the original Pixie Hollow books and the Never Girls goes a little too far for my understanding of this world. They just keep pulling talents out of their ass. And uh-oh, here comes Book Vidya. No! Vidya has been waiting for the perfect opportunity to bully these children. After Kate had trouble flying, it's the perfect time to strike. I guess you simply have no talent, the fairy said. I guess not, Kate agreed sadly. This gives off the same energy as
you have no skills and you're a loser!
Vidya's addiction to performance-enhancing pixie dust continues. Now go ahead, fill it up. The whole thing? Kate was shocked. The sock was as long as her forearm. Tink says everyone only gets a cupful. Vidya smirked. Tink doesn't care about flying. Not like we do. Take it as prescribed, Kate. I know you love adventure and risk, but not like this, Kate. During Vidya and Kate's bender, Kate got lost, but worse than that, she left a dirty-ass handprint at the scene of the crime. As all the fairies and girls were frantically searching for Kate, Neverland decided to specifically help Gabby. Because Gabby has good vibes, I guess. How in the name of Neverland did she get all the way out here? Tink wondered. Tink didn't know it, but Neverland was exactly how Gabby had gotten there. The island had felt Gabby's belief. It had shrunk itself to help the little girl. If it wasn't for Gabby's belief maxing, Neverland would have left Kate lost forever. By the end of the book, Prilla could not bring the girls home. But don't worry, because not one of them doubted that they would make it home someday, but in the meantime, they had many adventures ahead of them in Neverland. Yeah, about 12 more books worth of adventures to be specific. And that's not even counting the spin-off series Finding Tinkerbell. Anyway, book 2. The Space Between. This series does the best job of showing humans having fun. Because sure, we already had the Lost Boys who fight pirates and are Peter Pan's little soldiers, but that never sounded fun to me. I would hate that. You know who I'm actually jealous of? Lainey. Look at her befriending this deer. She's also racing with Fawn, the animal talent fairy, aka the best character from the movies. Fawn is teaching Lainey how to speak different animal languages, and the friendship between the two of them is so sweet. I know not everything needs to be adapted into a TV show or movie, but I am genuinely surprised Disney didn't take the opportunity to animate this. The closest thing we got is gotcha videos on YouTube, but pretty much every franchise has gotcha videos on YouTube. I mean, it's cool, I guess. A sweet, wholesome moment. A boo, we need to raise the stakes. So Prilla accidentally blinked all the fairies to Earth. Fly safe, the queen started to say as Prilla blinked. In that moment, all of Pixie Hollow winked out. The trees, the flowers, the sky, the fairy circle, and the fairies themselves. Everything vanished. The rest of Queen Clarion's words were lost. The woman was too stunned to speak. Fawn was so emotional over Lainey leaving that she couldn't even bring herself to say goodbye. And listen, I get it. That's the second worst goodbye Fawn will ever have to say. Only know the lights when you're missing home. Only miss the sun when it starts to snow. Only know you love her when you let her go. And you let her go. Turns out Fawn was also somehow brought to Earth. Her first obstacle is Mia's cat hunting her. By the end of chapter 3, Fawn somehow ends up back at Pixie Hollow, but so does Mia's cat. Now listen, I understand them fearing for their life. I'm not gonna hold that against them. All I'm saying is I'm not convinced in the way this book characterizes our beloved fairies. Listen to this. Nasty beast, Fawn muttered under her breath. Only a monster wants to play with his lunch before he eats it. Fawn would never talk about an animal in that way. Ever? Don't ever Flanderize her again? Now we see Lainey and Fawn's parallels dealing with different conflict. Fawn running away from Mia's predator cat, while Lainey is protecting Fawn's mouse friend that accidentally got teleported to Earth. I won't have mice in my house, her mother declared, swiping at it with a broom. The mouse dodged the bristles one last time and disappeared through a crack in the wall. You almost killed it! Lainey wailed. Lainey was missing Pixie Hollow more than any of them, and now we see why. Her mother doesn't understand her at all. So the Blinks weren't responsible. There's somehow a rift between a hollow tree in Pixie Hollow and a loose fence board in Mia and Gabby's backyard. So their worlds are connected. There's a portal now. Mia and her cat are reunited. And Lainey can still study animals with Fawn. Happy ending. Bing bong, catch this in your mouth like hibachi. A dandelion's wish? What's your wish? I wish that the sisters Gabby and Mia would get along. Yeah, like that'd ever happen. Get real. Mia is stuck watching Gabby, but still finds time to sneak away to Pixie Hollow, not off to a good start. Reminder, Mia loves dresses, roses, and anything beautiful. So, of course, she bonds with Rosetta, who is also a girly girl who cares about looks. But to make this responsibility a bit more fun, Mia invites Rosetta back to their house. Even though Mia rushed back home because she needs to watch her sister, she does not do that. She ignores and gatekeeps Rosetta from her little sister. "What's that?" she asked, eyeing the lump in Mia's pocket. "Nothing, mind your own business," Mia said, hurrying up the stairs to her room. The one really good thing about Mia being mean to her younger sister is, as I said before, everyone's reaction to it, because they very accurately capture people's reaction to seeing siblings squabble. 99% of the time it's awkward because of the one who's being mean, not the younger one just being silly and goofy. Mia grabbed hold of her sister by one wing and spun her around. "Ow!" she exclaimed. "Get out of my room!" "Let go, Mia," Gabby shouted. "It's all right, Mia," Rosetta said. "No, it's not," Mia said. "It's my room, and I didn't invite Gabby in. She's intruding." Now she's being mean to her guest. And apparently Mia knew she was being mean, but she couldn't stop herself. As the sisters glared at each other, a blur of brown fur streaked into the room through the open door. "Bingo!" the girls shrieked. They dove for the cat at the same time. Their heads collided with a loud smack. Bingo shot past them, headed right for Rosetta. The vibe-killing family fighting continues. "Gabby!" Mia wailed. "Bingo!" She didn't know who to yell at first. "Both of you, out!" "I want to stay," Gabby said, digging in her heels. "No, you mess up everything. You were a mistake." "Mia, calm down." She pushed Gabby and Bingo into the hall and locked the door behind them. "I don't think she meant to let Bingo in," Rosetta said, fluttering down from the ceiling. "You don't know what it's like to have a little sister." Yeah, Mia didn't even check in on the fairy that her cat almost killed. She is becoming defensive because once again the fairy that was almost killed is sticking up for her little sister. I know these kids are written realistically. I understand that when siblings butt heads, everything feels very personal. At my grown age, it's so irritating. Rosetta feels the same way. "Maybe I should go home," the fairy said. She looked nervous, and Mia realized she was still afraid of Bingo. I wonder why. It's almost as if he tried to kill her. "Don't leave yet," Mia begged. No wonder her name is Mia. She just keeps going, me, 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 asshole. I know she's only 10, but asshole. After her older sister kicks her out at every turn, Gabby is nowhere to be found. And since every book so far's stakes is getting to and from worlds, they keep that up with this one. It is the main conflict. Gabby has the worst timing imaginable because she goes through the fence to go to Pixie Hollow, and immediately after that, her dad fixes the fucking fence. Iridessa, the light talent fairy, absolutely lives up to her talent, being a ray of sunshine. She is so sweet with little Gabby, calming her down and discouraging animosity towards her older sister, even though Mia totally deserves it. I also love what a busy bee Iridessa is, and the magical way she tells time. Iridessa liked to see things sorted out, and it had only taken her, Iridessa glanced at the sun, 47 seconds. To measure time, we look at the movement of the sun, not through a sundial's shadow, but from staring directly at it. When the fairies realize the opening to the human world is stuck, panic ensues, and Gabby's there too. She's like, "Oh, my dad fixed the fence? Good for him. He's been wanting to do that." "Gabby, that means you're not going home." "Home to my bitch-ass sister? I don't think so. I don't give a shit, actually." Rosetta and Iridessa, as sweet as they are having the worst day of their lives. In Pixie Hollow, a huge storm hit. Iridessa is soaked in mud, so she can't fly, and she's lost with only a 5-year-old human to help her. And aside from Rosetta almost being eaten, as we already talked about, now she's in Mia's neighbor's garden with dying flowers surrounding her. Rosetta looked up with tears in her eyes. Mia, look at this place. Who would do this to a garden? Flowers need love and care. You can't just ignore them. I can't leave them like this. Maybe this is how all the animosity towards humans, or should I say clumsies, came from. Follow my train of thought here. Think about it. The fairies have a system to deal with every problem, besides Vidya, of course. And then they get to Earth and see a never-ending list of problems that no one is even attempting to solve. Maybe they don't even have a problem with the kids. They just have a problem with the adults, to the point where they don't even want to have a connection with the kids because eventually the kids will forget them as they grow up. So anyway, that's my theory. It's actually a terrible day for Mia's dad too, because as if fucking up his progress on the fence isn't enough, Mia and her friends need to get Gabby back, and he's mowing the lawn for far too long, so to get him to stop, they send Rosetta to tear a hole in the lawnmower bag. Bruh. Dad's pissed, Rosetta was scared. Everyone is so nice, I need the snark back now. You know what, maybe they do need to snap at these children. After they re-loosened up the board in the fence, the portal to Pixie Hollow wasn't there anymore, adding insult to injury for both Mia's dad and Rosetta. Turns out the portal moved to Gabby's room. I think Neverland only likes Gabby. And even at the end of Mia's arc, she still finds a way to piss me off. I'm home! Oh, it's so good to be back! Rosetta exclaimed. She did a joyous twirl in the air, then darted away without a backwards glance. She didn't even say goodbye, thought Mia. She thought she was there for life, dude. She thought she was trapped, and then multiple times you put her life in danger, and she was still really nice to you, dude. Apparently, Gabby's wish on a dandelion is what made the portal appear in her room. When you wish upon a dandelion, you and your sister will stop fighting. My wish came true. The sisters are best friends again. I know I'm supposed to get emotional over the sisters finally getting along, but Gabby's relationship with Iridessa means so much more to me. It's so sweet. It's so much more fleshed out. You don't mess everything up, Iridessa said. You're the one who got us back to Pixie Hollow, and you rescued me from the flood, and you're the one who found all the fireflies in the forest. You did everything right. You are sweet and brave and imaginative. I would be glad if you were my sister. Iridessa realized that it was true. If it weren't for Gabby, she never would have seen the dancing fireflies or the Trail of Wishes. Those things hadn't been part of her plan, but Iridessa wouldn't have wanted to miss them for the world. Gabby had her own kind of magic, she thought, and in its way, it was as powerful as any fairy magic. More of Iridessa and Gabby, okay? I don't even give a shit about Mia. Book 4, From the Mist. This book opens with a fog filling up Gabby's room. The aforementioned mist. The titular mistular? The girls visit the fairies, and they're having a meeting all about this highly unusual weather. I almost forgot how many more fairy talents there are in the book, the cutest of which being Dulce the baking fairy, and one of the worst talents are the fairies born to be waiters. Please tell me they at least make tips. And don't clown on America for the employers not paying them enough, okay? Like, we're not the greedy employers, okay? All we can fucking do is make sure people are being tipped. I'm so tired of the tips discourse on TikTok. The tips talk. I can make a whole second channel video about it, but there are so many people that are so adamant about not helping out others. I'm so off topic. Yeah, I think in one of the earlier books, there was like a mining fairy. Like, there were some really strenuous jobs that I would not want to be born into. Like, that's my sole purpose, is customer service. Silver Mist is completely off-put by the mist, which is an obvious warning for reasons they spell out very clearly. As a water fairy, Silver Mist liked water in any form, from dewdrop to rushing waterfall. Usually just being near it soothed her, but this clammy mist made Silver Mist shiver from wing to wing. Why is it bothering me? She wondered. After all, mist was water too. It's nice to hear her thought process, because in the movies, she is very silly all the time, and as iconic as it is, it's nice to see this range from our neurodivergent queen. The moment the fairies see the mist horses, they believe they're dangerous. Although that seems to be their default for anything or anyone the fairies aren't prepared for, the book pisses me off on behalf of Lainey the animal girl, because for whatever reason, Kate's the one to have the connection to the mist horses. And I get it. The mist horses are a symbol of freedom and adventure, which is Kate's thing, but still. Kate's free-spirited attitude can also be read as careless and selfish because as the other girls are helping the fairies during their time of need, Kate says, nah, I don't really feel like it. And now she's trying to ride a horse, which is how Michelle from Full House lost her memories. Be careful, Kate. Lainey never would have distressed a horse like that. I know I was complaining about Mia the most in the previous book, but my least favorite character is by far Kate. Gabby and Lainey are carrying this group and this entire series. So Silvermist found out why the mist horses are dangerous. Horses enchant their riders, so they keep riding and riding, Silvermist said. The rider believes the horse is loyal and obedient, but it's a trick. It's the rider who obeys the horse, as if under a spell. It sounds like play stupid games, win stupid prizes. Don't fuck with nature and nature won't fuck with you. It's also interesting because so far, every video bitch fest we've witnessed in the Nevergirls series acts as a warning to Kate. It's as if Neverland itself keeps saying, you know who you sound like? You know who else runs away from their problems? And anyone trying to help her in the name of freedom? You have a problem, Kate. No one likes Vidya and you're on the same path. After encounters with vines, with bears, the mist horses and their unknowing prisoner, Kate, were at the edge of a cliff. They were going to take the human child to the spirit realm. Chapter 9 actually does end with the horses jumping off a cliff with Kate. Horse girls, riddle me this. If your horse jumped off a cliff, would you too? The picture in the back is going to look a lot different now. So Kate ended up being fine. I mean, yay, yeah. The horse didn't take her to heaven or anything, and while I'm glad she's okay, I knew she'd be. The book didn't have the balls to do that. That would have been devastating. But I hate how there's no consequences. She ran away from her responsibilities, and the lesson is bonkers. I can't believe you were worried. My horse would never do anything bad. Mia looked puzzled. Did you say my horse? Kate gave a sheepish smile. Bah. That's a sheepish smile. Anyway, I guess I did. And in a way, she is mine, like I am hers. But just now, when we were riding, flying up in the air, I realized Cloud doesn't need a rider. She just needs to be free. She just needs to run wild with her herd. I guess that's the lesson, when the lesson should really be, you can't always do everything, Kate. Sometimes you need to contribute to society and look after your neighbor. Like, literally, the fairies were begging her for help, and she was like, nah. And this is the end? This is what it came to? This was the worst book. Book 5 started in an unusual way. The fairies have taken interest in a human custom. Can you guess which one? Gabby is going to be her babysitter's flower girl. Mia is very jealous. And we also get introduced to the idea of the fairy world being kept a secret for the first time. Gabby stopped so suddenly she yanked her sister backward. I almost forgot, she said. I have to tell the fairies how to get to the wedding. She started to turn around, but Mia stopped her. The fairies can't come to the wedding, she said. But I want them to see me be flower girl, Gabby cried. What if someone sees them? No one can know about Pixie Hollow. It's our secret. In this book, we've seen adults look right at fairies, but because they don't believe, they see right through the fairy. Like the sister's neighbor. This differs from the movie, where adults can see the fairies and there are consequences. Remember creepy science dad that wanted to keep Tinkerbell as a specimen, pinned up like a butterfly? But why are they worried in the books? Prilla makes herself known to the humans all the time. Now we have to learn about social convention, which is a bummer. Julia's expecting a flower girl, not a fairy. You'll have to leave your wings at home, said her mother. She might as well have asked Gabby to leave her arms at home. Mommy, no, Gabby cried, clutching the straps on her shoulders. Am I the asshole for wanting to wear my fairy wings at a wedding? I, 5 female, am very sad. I understand the mom went about it in a nice way, and everyone has different rules for their wedding, but I remember my neurodivergent ass at my aunt's wedding with a Tamagotchi lanyard around my neck. I love looking back at those photos. There's another one of me in my fancy dress, eating peanut butter straight from the jar. I was so silly goofy and could not be contained. Bess the painting fairy was more determined than the others to see this dang wedding, so she went through the portal just in time to run into Gabby, who was putting away her fairy wings. I promised Mia I wouldn't say anything about fairies or Pixie Hollow, Gabby thought, but I never said I wouldn't bring a fairy. I love loopholes like this. This kid doesn't just have the most faith in fairies, she's also also clever and has moxie. In chapter 3, we meet this absolute villain of a party planner named Amanda Cork. Such a good name for someone who has a stick up their ass. She's very snappy and doesn't give clear instructions to Gabby, the youngest kid there. Instead, she lets this kid get anxious and feel alone. I will say one thing, Amanda was very clear about Gabby not being allowed to touch the veil. But she didn't enforce that rule well, because the moment Gabby was alone, she tried on the veil, accidentally tripping over it and getting it dirty. I was gasping. I was genuinely invested. I was like, oh my god, how can this get any worse? Well, she puts pixie dust on it and it starts to fly away. If only Earth was on her side the way Neverland is. Believe it or not, Bess the art fairy messed things up even more than Gabby did. Very fish out of water. She accidentally finds herself on top of the cake, mistaking the bride and groom toppers for other fairies. And worse than that, Bess falls in a chocolate fountain, leading to this confusing lore drop. They can't be looking at me, Bess thought. Grown-up clumsies can't see fairies unless... Uh-oh! Bess suddenly realized they could see her. Covered in chocolate, she was no longer invisible. Now she looked like a big, ugly brown bug. Squish it! One of the clumsies said. The next thing Bess saw was a huge silver lid coming towards her. So she's invisible in her own clothes, but if any sort of earth substance gets on her, then it makes her visible-ish? You gotta just go with it, without trying to apply the logic of the other Tinkerbell worlds. To the author's credit, the humor is there, the kids are characterized very realistically, as I keep saying, and the story is fun and engaging. I don't ever forget what demographic this is made for. We're just having a chuckle. Is that such a big deal? Don't try me. Gabby decides to try and fly to get the veil back. And even during her idiot arc, she's still iconic. This picture of her flying at the wedding while the other girls look on in horror, while no one else notices, makes me wish this was animated so bad. Wonderful weather we're having. Yeah, thank goodness. Did you see that weird fog the other day? The ambiance was atrocious. It felt foreboding, dude. Well, listen, if anything mystical or magical happens, we'll know about it. Yeah, it won't fly over our heads. No siree. Mom? I do. We'll be right back. Now, at the end of the book, we see how much the fairies have warmed up to these kids. They're not only cleaning up their messes in Pixie Hollow, they're also cleaning up the human children's messes at the Earth wedding. I came on in a blink, Prilla replied. I thought I'd just watch the wedding in secret like you and I talked about, but then I saw the trouble, so I went back and brought everyone along to help. Bess smiled at her friends. You mean you all came to rescue me? Actually, no, Prilla said in surprise. I didn't even know you were here. I met Gabby. She's in trouble. We have to help her. They use all their different talents to fix everything that went awry. Quite literally a deus ex machina. I like that they had the sewing fairy fix the veil, and her name was Hem. They didn't name the cleaning fairy, though. Let's brainstorm some names together, okay? We got Suds, Disinfectet, Dove, maybe like the soap brand. It may be confusing for the animal talent fairies. Anyway, the veil looks better than ever, and they replenish the flower petals Gabby lost while she was flying. And now the cherry on top, listen to this adorable exchange between the bride and Gabby. Julia laughed. I know it's just a piece of fabric, but something about it is special. Wearing a veil makes me feel like a bride. I guess that sounds silly, doesn't it? No, it doesn't, said Gabby. That's how I feel about my wings. Speaking of your wings, where are they? Asked Julia. Mommy said I shouldn't wear them to the wedding, Gabby told her. But of course you can wear them, Julia exclaimed. They're part of what makes you Gabby. Go put them on. God. I think this was my favorite Never Girl book. I do have a physical copy of the next one, though. The 6th book, The Woods Beyond. In this book, we hear that it's Great Games Day, which is a rare and exciting event. Fairies of every talent competed to show off their skills. There was a leapfrog race for the animal talent fairies and an obstacle course for the fast flyers. This reminds me of that one special I forgot to cover. So, let's do that now, actually.
I made it special.
So the way the competition works in the Pixie Hollow game special is very different than what we heard about in this book. The garden fairies don't compete against other garden fairies. Every talent has their own team of 2 that compete competes against all the other talents. Rosetta, who cares about beauty, dreads being picked for the garden fairy team. We meet a new fairy named Chloe, who I immediately recognized was voiced by Brenda Song, and she is the only garden talent fairy excited to compete. She doesn't mind getting dirty, and is very weirded out that Rosetta freaks out about dirt on her outfit because, I mean, dirt is part of gardening. They're gardeners. The weather talent fairies won the last 4 Pixie Hollow games, and Bobble is rooting for them despite all of his friends competing. He's not even rooting for his own Tinker team. Chloe and Rosetta lasted in the frog racing competition, even though Rosetta wasn't trying at all, and the only reason they didn't come in last is because they accidentally sabotaged the healing fairies. Heal this! And then they just destroyed all of their equipment. The montage of all the other games afterwards made things really confusing because we don't see who loses, so we can only infer based on who we didn't see after each game. You're telling me the water fairies lost at surfboarding? Anyway, it was cute. Rosetta learns it's cooler to try than to be clean all the time. Yay. I wish we actually got to see the competitions. We saw the first and last one. It was very rushed. It was only 20 minutes, but still. The Pixie Hollow Bake-Off short is only 4 minutes long, but the visuals look so different. I have to talk about it for this reason alone. They should call it Pixar Hollow, with the way they're making these facial expressions so quirky. Gelada the Baking Fairy wants to keep things consistent for Queen Clarion's 400th arrival day cake. Tinkerbell had another idea.
I may have casually suggested that Gelada shake things up a bit this year. Apparently, in baking fairy speak, that translates into bake-off.
I think that was actually her magical way of saying fuck off, but here we are having a bake-off between the bakers and non-bakers. Tinkerbell and Friends' presentation was more whimsical and fun, but it tasted like such shit, they implied that the queen got sick. This was an assassination attempt. I thought it would end with the baking fairies working with our main characters on the decorating process, but Gelada is just happy she won. And you know what? Good for her. This is what she was created for. This is her purpose in life. She should have won.
Now back to the show.
Back to book 6, The Woods Beyond. Lainey and Prilla were both having terrible days for different reasons. Everyone was mad at Lainey. The reasons are not important. Just know it's not Lainey's fault. Leave her alone. And Prilla, the clap if you believe fairy, feels completely overlooked because kids keep getting too distracted to see her, and if that isn't enough, she can't compete in the big event because she's the only fairy of her kind. This led to the worst encounter between two of my favorite characters. I'm gonna cry. Don't worry, I've got him, Lainey yelled as she closed in on a frightened frog. Lainey, no, a fairy cried, but Lainey was trying so hard to catch the frog, she didn't seem to hear. When Prilla was coming out of a blink, she always felt a bit fuzzy, and she was slow to react. It wasn't until Lainey was almost on top of her that Prilla realized she was about to get stepped on. Stop, Lainey, stop, stop! Prilla screamed. Lainey drew up short. Her foot hovered just inches above Prilla. A look of horror crossed Lainey's face. Oh my gosh, she said, I didn't see you. I'm sorry, Prilla. I'm so sorry. Almost getting squished was the last straw. Prilla's bad mood suddenly bubbled over and she burst out, Lainey, you must be the clumsiest clumsy who ever lived. Lainey looked stunned and she turned and stumbled away. Prilla regretted her words at once. Lainey, she called after her, but it was too late. Lainey was gone. We lost another one. When Lainey is at her lowest, she meets the Lost Boys. Oh girl, they're not gonna make you feel better. I wrote here, let me guess. They're such bummers about not having families, so she's guilted into feeling better about her own life. Tale as old as time. But consider my expectations subverted. I was so wrong. She didn't think these orphans were bummers even a little bit. So you mean, she said slowly, that you can do whatever you want? And there are no grown-ups to tell you what to do? That's right. Whatever we want, whenever we want. How wonderful, Lainey thought. No rules or bedtimes, no dinner before you eat dessert or chores before you go out to play. It seemed like the perfect life. How could you ever have a bad day? It's a good knock life for you. It's a good knock life. Woo-hoo! I know they're really leaning into the drama and the tunnel vision of kids. Hell, I remember packing my own knapsack, ready to run away from home after me and my mom got into one fight, but it still caught me off guard and made me laugh. Let's rewind. The Lost Boys are shocked to see a human girl. I'm just a girl. What sort of girl? One of the boys asked. Mermaid or fairy? Just a regular girl, said Lainey. She crawled out from beneath the bed. The boys could not have looked more shocked if a talking turnip had popped up from the dirt floor. Their eyes grew round as nickels. So this was before Wendy. And also, I love that they asked what kind of girl. There are only two subgenders, mermaids or fairies. Mia, Gabby, Kate, and Prilla are all looking for Lainey, and they keep hearing loud, mysterious animal noises, and they're scared and exclaim that they wish Lainey was there with them, because they've seen Lainey scare away a bear before. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that? Serves you all right for being mean to her. Except for Gabby, she's an angel as usual, the only other good character. The animal noises the girls heard were the Lost Boys, who briefly, in the dead of night, mistook the girls for pirates. A perfect meetup for Lainey to introduce her two different groups of friends to each other. The lesson isn't what I thought it would be. Listen to this. Maybe bad days are just bad days. It doesn't mean everything is bad. It's a hard knock life. Sometimes. I don't know why at that point I wouldn't just sing The Sun Will Come Out Tomorrow. That fits way better. And anyway, the lesson, it's a good one. I'm not mad about it. Next book. I have very few things to say about the 7th Never Girls book, A Pinch of Magic, so let's just speedrun it. The girls find out there's a summer block party that needs volunteers. All the proceeds goes to Megan Davis, a girl from their school who needs money to replace things her family lost in a house fire. Mia was the first one to suggest they should help, but while looking through the list, she doesn't really see anything she's good at, so she settles on baking for the fundraising event. We meet the twins Tina and Tara, and before these twins even say anything, we are hit with this picture. So we know they're gonna be assholes. Look at their poses. They're cheerleader adjacent aesthetics. The way all of our main characters look like they want to punch them in the face. And yes, these two twins are getting competitive over baking. From what we hear, they're usually snooty and put others down, but this event is an exceptionally weird time to be mean. You guys know you're both volunteering, right? Ooh, we are leaving you in the dust. Everyone loves our food so much more. We're on fire. What? You can't say that. What? This is where the original Disney fairy books really piss me off. I've said it before, I'll say it 100 times. They get too specific over weird things. Chapter 2 of A Pinch of Magic, listen to this. Caterpillar shearing talent fairy. That's just an animal talent fairy. Grow up. Dulce or Dolce? I don't know how to pronounce it. I've looked it up. I don't know. Anyway, the baking fairy is helping Mia for the fundraiser, and the girls are helping distract and take the fairy's mind off accidentally endangering her own friend whose house was just destroyed. I'm trying to give you this information really quickly. They're self-contained little conflicts. It doesn't matter that this one fairy's house was crushed by a fish, dropped by a hawk, as sad as it is. We can't dwell on it. The ending of this book was very cute, but I was so disappointed because they described this cake, and even the picture looked so delicious. I was hoping at the end there'd be a recipe, but there wasn't. I think that would have been a fun touch. Moving on, Book 8, Far From Shore. As the cover suggests, the girls meet Peter, who I think is thoroughly uninteresting, but this is important to Tinkerbell. I'm sure I'll be pissed off. It's been a while since Tinkerbell has seen Peter, and Silvermist was worried that Tinkerbell wouldn't return at all, like last time. And if that isn't weird enough, here's their exchange. It's good to see you, Peter. We came from Pixie Hollow for a visit. These girls are my friends. Tink is the best fairy, isn't she? Peter said. Tink's glow turned orange. Kate had never seen her blush before. Dude, I've talked about it enough. All the girls are so excited to meet Peter, even getting flustered, not wanting to look foolish in front of the fool. Why don't you fly? Peter asked them. 2 bursts of red appeared on Mia's cheeks. Kate knew Mia didn't want to admit she was afraid of flying. It's because they don't have any fairy dust, Kate said. Mia gave her a grateful look. Gives a shit what this boy thinks! In a moment, Peter had blown fairy dust from his hand over each of the girls. Listen, honestly, thank goodness he doesn't have to give pixie dust the way he used to, via spanking. This looks like it would be part of Sabrina Carpenter's new album. Eesh. Second of all, why is no one unamused by him? That's why the second movie is my favorite version of his character, because he gets to see what it's like when someone doesn't worship the ground he walks on, or the ground he flies over, even. Tink began to watch the game more closely. It seemed that every time Kate got the bubble, she threw it back to Peter, and every time Peter threw it to someone else, Kate intercepted. It does not surprise me that Kate is the biggest pick-me. That totally fits her character. This downward spirals even more. But what about our rule? Mia whispered. The girls had a rule about Neverland. One rule only. They went to the Magic Island together and they returned home together always. What about it? Kate said with a shrug. You can wait for me in Pixie Hollow. I'll be back soon, and then we'll go home together. I shouldn't have to miss out on an adventure just because you don't want to go. Ugh, Kate. First you abandon your friends for a horse, and now Peter. Do you even like your friends? So this is some actual insight on how time escaped Tinkerbell. Tink had always told herself she'd only go on one adventure that day. But one had become two, and two had become three. That's how it always was with Peter, she thought. The adventures came one after another, like beads on a string, until you couldn't even remember which one started it all. She likes the never-ending adventure and lack of responsibility. That alone could have been an interesting dynamic for her to learn from. And I'm glad that at least so far she's been giving less bitter ex vibes as much as she usually does in these books, which, thank Mother Dove, may her memory be eternal. And even the ending is a good lesson. The only one who can out-careless Kate is Peter Pan. Kate stood up stiffly. I don't think I want to go anymore, she said. Sailing to the mainland with Peter didn't seem quite like the adventure it had before. I think I just want to go home. Peter's brow wrinkled. Why would you do that? He asked. He really doesn't understand, Kate thought. He only cares about playing games and having fun. Peter was the most exciting person she'd ever met, but for once, Kate was tired of excitement. I'd like to think he acted as a warning. What good is an adventure all the time if there was no home? No rest. No thinking of others. God, Kate needed this lesson so badly. I'm excited to see her development through the rest of the series, but not right now. I'm so excited to move on. I'm so sick of these girls. And I'm remaining true to my title. This is the never-ending lore of Tinkerbell. There will be a third video. This is the first book in a series. I need to save some things to cover in that video. Let's move on to Tinkerbell and the Lost City.
Things are getting real out here. Really real. Really real.
For all the kids hoping to spy a fairy from their window. This dedication is cute, but I have a question. What about the adults hoping to see a fairy? Oh, that's what this book is for. This steamy romance of sorts. After the dedication, we have this map of Bleakwatch. As the back blurb describes, Bleakwatch is a hidden city of fairies below the streets of London. I think that explains why, in the movies at least, Neverland is only interested in British children, kids from London specifically. We see the three main locations of this book. I actually haven't looked at this map since I finished the book, so it was so funny to see, like, the golden dust cap. I'm like, what does that mean? Clockwork Capital, what does that mean? You're gonna see all of these places and the socioeconomic impact. I'm not fucking around. Once we get to the story part of this book, there are no pictures. Pretty advanced for me, but we persevere, okay? Especially because pre-story, we get these character breakdowns and also what they look like. So we already know Tinkerbell, a genius tinker talent from Pixie Hollow, has already shaken things up among the Neverland fairies. Spirited and curious, and perhaps a bit reckless. Totally, dude. Totally. Let's meet Quinn. This is our first new character. A fast-talking fairy and natural leader, Quinn is the heart of the Flutterpunks. Don't be fooled by their sarcastic air. Slay! Quinn cares deeply about their found family and will do anything to protect the crew. Their mechanical wing trusses provide bursts of speed and silent flying for sneaky heists. We got a fairy outside the binary. As we should. Happy Pride. Nothing's more magical than being yourself. Out of the closet or in, you're magical, okay? Disney, I know you're just a corporation that cares about money at the end of the day, but more of this, please. More of this. We meet Oswald. We meet Danvers and Darwin. Identical fairy siblings, Danvers and Darwin are the reconnaissance. They're very excitable, very sweet. Darwin's special goggles allow her to see through walls, and Danvers' headphones can listen in on furtive conversations. Okay, SAT words. Meet Axel. Meet Maddox.
Well, no.
Meet King Bartleby and his luscious beard. I feel like once you see and hear a bit about these characters, you're gonna want to go out and buy this book. Because when I tell you, I don't remember the last time a book caught my attention so completely and entirely, right off the bat. After all that, the first fairy we meet is Elmira. Who is Elmira? We didn't see a picture of her. Or better yet, who was Elmira? Uh-oh. The first chapter finished almost as soon as it started. And in these 4 pages, we learned that Elmira is flying through a storm in a metal machine called the Ornithopter. We also learned that she's never been to Pixie Hollow, or any of Neverland for that matter. Neverland. She'd made it. She'd actually made it. Beneath her relief, Elmira was struck by a powerful sense of awe. Despite being a fairy herself, she'd never visited or even seen the mysterious island that housed Pixie Hollow, home of the Never Fairies. And the chapter ends with her potentially falling to her death. Only miss the light when it's burning low. I'm gonna stop doing that, okay? I'm going to read you this paragraph followed by how chapter 2 opens, okay? Crack! She heard the wing snap before she saw it. Elmira's stomach lurched as the ornithopter dropped, its broken body twisting dizzily in the unforgiving wind. She tried to pull herself free from the machine's cabin, her own wings fluttering and hands scrambling for the release latch. She had to escape. She had to. Thunder boomed through the sky, finally catching up. It drowned out the sound of the ornithopter's impact with the ocean's surface. Machine and fairy both disappeared below, into the churning wave. Chapter 2. A beautiful morning had dawned in Pixie Hollow, and Tinkerbell was determined not to let it go to waste. The juxtaposition in mood. The eagerness to get back to the previous plot, to see if Elmira's okay. Also, kind of fucked up of Neverland to not save her. Remember, this land ass can move to wherever it wants, and it chose to witness that plummet and not catch her. This book already has a leg up on the other series because they mentioned the iconic himbo duo of Clank and Bobble, Tink's first friends from the movie. They describe the jester vibe they bring to the function. Both could be a little eccentric, me too, but they were also loyal allies and brilliant adventurers. I think they're more than allies. They're gay. They're gay is what I'm saying. While Tink, Clank, and Bobble were looking for human trinkets washed up on the shore, they also found Elmira, buried alive. They called for the healing talents. While waiting for the doctors to arrive, Tinkerbell made a fire to warm up the freezing fairy. I don't think the stakes have ever been higher. Name a time where the stakes have been higher in Tinkerbell. It may not be an appropriate time, but Tinkerbell is admiring Elmira's clothes, which are a clear indicator she isn't from around these parts. Suddenly, Elmira wakes up and is responsive, but her voice is out. She writes out her name and tells Tinkerbell more about herself. Here, let me read a bit for you. Now, where are you from, Elmira? Somewhere on Neverland? Elmira shook her head, screwing her face into a thoughtful expression. She lifted the stick and leaf again. Her shaking was getting worse and barely managing to draw a rough shape across the back of a leaf. It looked like a tower of some kind with a sharply steepled roof. That's a tongue twister. Then Elmira added one last detail, a circle embedded in the top with 2 pointed lines inside. A clock? Tinkerbell guessed. Elmira nodded excitedly, holding her hands out wide. A big clock, Tink corrected, like the one from the mainland. Now the stranger gasped in surprise. Clearly she hadn't expected Tinkerbell to know about Big Ben, but Tinkerbell had visited the mainland several times, and had even flown by the tower with her human friend Lizzie on one occasion. I love the callbacks to the movie. I'm gonna make a callback of my own. Watch this. Did we mention we're in England?
Oi, that fucking hurt. I don't understand what I did.
Elmira was frantically playing Pictionary as she was losing steam, so whatever it was she wanted to say, it was very important. Tinkerbell is able to decipher that Elmira is looking for something that was lost on the mainland. Elmira fainted, but before she did, she confirmed that Tinkerbell guessed correctly. End of chapter 2. We hear why the trips to Earth are infrequent and discouraged. Here's the reason the book explains. She knew her friends would tell her not to go. Trips to the mainland were heavily restricted, and for good reason. For all their ingenuity, humans could be unbearably selfish and cruel, especially the grown-up ones. Most wouldn't think twice about hurting a fairy for their own ends. Tinkerbell had barely been saved from such a fate by her friends. She knew firsthand what would happen when a human discovered the existence of fairies. The books that don't acknowledge the movies leave a lot more unsaid, but emotionally, it's stronger to hear the self-reflection. I know that's partially because this book is just for a higher age group, but also letting the movies be the groundwork leads to a more coherent storyline. I'm I'm sorry I keep saying that. Now I'm going to take a throwaway line very seriously. If Dessa or Rosetta or Vidya, dust forbid, learned of her plans to cross the mainland alone, they'd tie Tink to her bed until winter. The homoerotic undertones of this line aside, but to replace God with dust? That's enough to make a Fox News anchor shit. Is the fairies' reliance on pixie dust a religion of sorts? Tinkerbell briefly second-guesses herself before taking Elmira's flying machine that she fixed off to the skies to the mainland to find whatever Elmira lost. In this book and the movies, they call Earth mainland, probably because all Neverland life is from there one way or another. And they clearly embrace it more than other iterations. They found the most slay way to describe a plane-like thing hurtling towards Earth. Just listen. She and the machine dropped like a stone. Tink screamed as the vehicle plummeted towards the waves. The lights and shapes of the mainland spun out of control, the jagged horizon spiraling in dizzying kaleidoscopic configurations. Why kaleidoscopic? Whoa. This thing has just cool colors and shapes. Dude, you should try this. That sounds really fun, honestly. I think I'm gonna have the time of my life. What? Why is my family... Like, what did they say? Athena, this is all your fault. Why would you show me images of such helpless peril? The kaleidoscope? More like kaleidonope. Tinkerbell is investigating Big Ben when this happens. Don't try and get away, Sprocket, a menacing voice instructed. We've got you surrounded. Just give us your dust and we'll be on our way. Tink could hardly believe what she was seeing. Fairies, 5 of them, had appeared out of nowhere and encircled her. These weren't any fairies Tink recognized, though. None was from Pixie Hollow. She was certain. Tinkerbell's mouth fell open. The appearance of these fairies were so surprising, so bizarre. She half forgot they just threatened her. All right, I cleaned my glasses. You're not a flamingo. Give me the money and no one gets hurt. Did you hear me? Sorry. Something about robbing me, right? Yes! I'm sorry. Your clothes are just so fucking hideous. I got distracted. Like, really? In those clothes? You're gonna rob me in those clothes? Fuck this, man. Tinkerbell assessed the group and decided to charge full force at the nerd to get away. Oz. Glasses. She burst forward as fast as she could right into the fairy's face. To her relief, he seemed unprepared for the maneuver, his own wings wheeling backward in surprise. It was enough of a shock that the heavy book slipped out of the fairy's hands. It plummeted toward the street below. The bookish fairy screamed in horror, shooting after it. Seeing his panic, Tink felt a twinge of guilt. But hey, she wasn't the one robbing a stranger in the middle of the night. Tink took advantage of the distraction to buzz away. So yeah, she didn't say nerd, she said bookish, which for whatever reason sounds worse to me. I also love that she's having this internal monologue. Didn't your mom ever tell you it's not nice to take things that don't belong to you? Canonically, us fairies do not have parents, you know that. Oh, did you read that in your book, you bookish boy? Yeah, it also said you're embonpoint. The fuck does that mean? You don't want to know. When they catch up to her, Tink finally states her business to the bandits, retrieving Elmira's lost necklace thing. We hear their reaction to where she's from. And you drew it on a leaf? Quinn snorted. Never fairies really are as rustic as they say. What? Do you live in acorns and eat sunflower seeds all day? Damn, they made this feel loaded. They're really calling Tinkerbell primitive and inferior. The twins Danvers and Darwin's view of Neverland is more what we're used to seeing. Awe, curiosity, amazement. I can see them immediately getting along with our usual iconic girl group. The rest are much harder nuts to crack. Nuts and bolts, that is. If I compared them to nature nuts, like almonds or acorns, I think they'd shoot me with a gun. Tinkerbell convinces these self-proclaimed slutterpunks, flutterpunks, to help her by giving them a bit of her dust. Chapter 6 switches to Quinn's perspective. An excellent choice to let the audience in on why they're so pissy in this introduction. Quinn still couldn't quite believe what they were doing, breaking the king's law to bring a never fairy right into the midst of Bleakwatch. They cursed themselves for not realizing earlier who this Tinkerbell was. Her dress was made of leaves for Clink's sake. This time the phrase was God's sake, and that was replaced with Clink's sake. Whether it's Pixie Hollow or Bleakwatch, the fairies are a godless bunch. R.I.P. Mother Dove. Yeah, they used to have a god. Try and keep up, okay? The Quinn section ends like this. Already, Quinn didn't like Tinkerbell. Something about her just grinded their gears. Maybe it was her wide-eyed earnestness. Something about that reads very gay. I didn't love her big, beautiful eyes and honesty. Let's spread the rumor that Tinkerbell bagged a non-binary baddie. Please and thank you. Let's continue. Oz had been right. Maddox was the obvious first step here. The crime boss of Bleakwatch would be very curious about this Neverland visitor. Crime boss? He looks like fucking John Travolta. The Flutterpunk's bracelets made a door to Bleakwatch appear. Based on the blurb, I was kind of expecting something like that to happen. Let me read you what I didn't expect. Bleakwatch's shadow talents use illusions to keep the city concealed. They're one of the reasons we mainland fairies had survived so long among humans. Shadow talents? Tinkerbell knew about light talents like her friend Dessa, but she'd never heard of the opposite. Did the mainland have unique talents that didn't even appear in Pixie Hollow? I need a movie adaptation. I don't care.
How did you make the door disappear?
Shadow talent. Exclusive to the mainland fairies. You know, you'd know that if you read the book. Let's continue reading, shall we? Why haven't the season-changing fairies ever stumbled across these? Tink said, squinting curiously at the door. Quinn sighed again. Their exasperation made Tink blush with embarrassment. In Neverland, her cleverness had earned her the respect of Pixie Hollow, but something about this haughty fairy's attitude left her feeling like the barest bud on the branch. My guy, they want your bare butt on their branch? Dude, did I say them being gay was a rumor? Pardon my ignorance, this shit is canon. Being close to the backwards ways of humans really informed the culture of Bleakwatch. Because of all the things Quinn can dunk on Tinkerbell about, they choose to brag about capitalism? Bruh. What, you don't shop where you come from? Tink shook her head. I'm not sure I understand. In Pixie Hollow, when a fairy needs something, the community just gives it to them. Quinn whistled in surprise. Wow, you all really do things differently in the sticks, where you guys care about each other and shit. Having Quinn, the first non-binary fairy, shit all over socialism is bold. Spoiler alert, this is just a very thinly veiled cope on their part. And quite frankly, I was a fool for thinking otherwise. Tinkerbell even noticed the impoverished fairies. A few looked a little worse for wear. Tink couldn't help noticing that the wings of these unfortunate fairies were withered and weak, as if from dust deprivation. Was there not enough pixie dust to go around in this place? I smell social commentary, hiding in a Disney property of all things. Can I just say, from this point, I didn't trust this fuck-ass king from the intros. They describe him as mysterious and reclusive. This bitch is hoarding the dust for sure. I said that on page 76, mind you. Quinn's trust in crime boss Maddox the Dustman seems shaky. He's nice to them. But listen here. Sure, he facilitated a few shady operations, but those were always in service to the city. He wouldn't actually hurt anyone, least of all the first Neverland tinker to visit Bleakwatch in an age, right? Right. You tell us. We don't fucking know. We haven't met him yet. As far as I'm concerned, with everything I've heard about Maddox, I distrust him as far as I can throw him, which is very far. So I distrust him a lot, just so we're clear. In Chapter 9, we see how the child's laugh is taken to Bleakwatch instead of Neverland, where Maddox, the crime boss, gets to greet the new fairy. The laugh rolled merrily through the mainland sky, looping from building to building, but once it had reached the horizon, and the stream of air that would carry it out to sea past the second star to the right, the laugh hesitated. Something shifted in the wind. Does that say anything about the child, the literal weather, or did another force steer the laugh away from Neverland and towards Bleakwatch? Very unclear so far. Also, I can't stop thinking about the twins. They both ended up in Bleakwatch. Tinkerbell and Periwinkle were separated in different areas of Neverland. Has a laugh ever split twins up, one in Neverland and one in Bleakwatch? That's something interesting to consider. We hear about another Bleakwatch talent, the dream talent. In Quinn's dream, we see their arrival day. They weren't able to make any object representing any talent glow. It was very similar to the scene in the first Tinkerbell movie when the titular bitchular found out she was a tinker. But unfortunately for Quinn, This was more like Encanto. They couldn't make any of the items glow, and they were labeled talentless.
You have no skills and you're a loser!
We find out in chapter 10 what a dream talent fairy actually does. Oz buzzed forward, always happy to provide some lore. Okay, Oz. The dream engines use a special kind of material called dream DOS to power the city. It's collected by dream talents from the magic of human dreams. It's what keeps the lights on. Operating the dream engines is important but grueling work. Ask Axel. He worked at the factory before joining up with us. It seems like human dreams are way more powerful than just turning on lights. I think Maddox and the king are deceiving and exploiting these fairies. I wrote here at this point in the story, if the king is even real. In fact, in Quinn's dream from the previous chapter, we see that they really want to impress the king they've never met. It's giving Elphaba and the wizard. Page 132, Tinkerbell learned from that slimy snake Maddox that the king is a tinker fairy, the most highly regarded position in all of Bleakwatch. And then, when Tinkerbell learned about the talentless category, she was just as suspicious as me. She had some questions. And do all the talentless fairies answer to you? Tink asked Maddox. Her eyes roved suspiciously across the arrival chamber. I see you still have questions, Maddox said, fluttering forward. That makes sense. You're a tinker after all. You're curious by nature, just like our great King Bartleby. The Sparrowman's friendly smile vanished, gone as quickly and fully as if he'd lifted a mask. And he will definitely be curious about you. Maddox nodded to one of the armored fairies. Grab her. Tink gasped. What? Yup. Me too, dude. I've compared this book to a lot of things. Now let's add Hunger Games to the mix, because the way this book described the extravagant wealth of the talent-having fairies felt like District 1. Towering over an exquisite central plaza was a fountain carved from smooth stone. Statues of elegant fairies ringed the fountain, each holding vessels from which poured slews and slews of pixie dust? Tink rasped. Waves of sparkling particles cascaded prettily from the stone decanters. Tink watched as heliograph, okay, that's what they call the talent-having fairies, as a heliograph approached the fountain and doused her face with dust. The way a fairy in Pixie Hollow might refresh themselves with a splash of water from the stream. But the fairy already carried a satchel full of dust at her side. Tink didn't understand. If there was this much dust to go around, then why were the aeronauts, that's the not talent-having fairies, scrounging for every pinch? They're hoarding the riches. It's a good thing this isn't real. Right, Bob Iger? Disney CEO? You'd never do that to us, right, Bobby boy? One Google search later. Guys, you're never gonna guess what I found out. I really didn't think King Bartleby would be introduced in the first book, but here he is, chapter 16. From the way he lulled Tinkerbell into a false sense of security, to being described as a baritone, I thought of this asshole from Amphibia. Tinkerbell was amazed that the king was the only Bleakwatch fairy to come from Neverland, defying the Queen's orders, traveling to Earth, and staying there with an underground pixie dust source he discovered. An enormous toadstool waded through the king's open doorway, bigger than any Tinkerbell had ever seen, even in Pixie Hollow. It was as huge and resplendent as the Neverland maple, maybe even as large as the pixie dust tree itself. In fact, Tink gasped. That's not possible, she said. Warm, glittering motes rained from the toadstool's great cap, each speck glowing with magic. Pixie dust. We call it the golden dust cap, King Bartleby said reverently. And possible or not, here it is. But where did it come from? Tink asked. She held her hand beneath a stream of dust, letting it part like a curtain over her fingers. I have no idea, King Bartleby said cheerfully. Do you really have no idea, King Bartleby? I don't. Bartleby, leave it. Up top. Come on. Turns out, Elmira's necklace thing was a key to free the talentless fairy of their bracelets. It wasn't to reveal the hidden doors at all. It was to suppress their real powers. Guess what fairies are weak against? Guess what this bracelet was made out of? Iron. King Bartleby made a great show about arresting Maddox, and they all lived happily ever after. Maddox wasn't the mastermind behind this plot, Elmira said. She pulled Tink closer, her eyes wide and wild. Elmira looked absolutely terrified. King Bartleby is... I could have told you that. What's funny is even though I called what was gonna happen chapters before, they really had me going there for a second. That king deserves an Oscar. He even mentioned Queen Clarion and Lord Milori and how happy he was for them. Was that also a lie? Did you want to be in a throuple with with them, and then you were rejected, you snake. By the way, what are the Flutterpunk's talents? Darwin, light talent. Danvers, shadow talent. So they're like the opposites of each other. Cute. Oz, scribe talent. Wow. Even his talent is just book. Axel, dream talent. Elmira is a music talent. She sang a beautiful note before delivering the devastating news. Your friends you just left are fucked. The only talent we didn't discover is Quinn's. You know, the one we care the most about. Are they a tinker? Maybe they'll work under the king's thumb, not knowing they're in danger. Maybe they're a fast-flying fairy, to mirror Tinkerbell's other gay lover Vidya. Or will Quinn replace Maddox as Keeper of the Dust? Dude, I cannot wait for book 2. I am so about this. I ate this up.
This shit rated porn.
Wings of Starlight, the young adult romance novel about Queen Clarion and Lord Milori. It shouldn't work as well as it does. Well, you'll see. I always wondered how the queendom of Pixie Hollow started. Was it run by a royal family line? No, wait. Fairies don't have families. Was it an election? Not that either. Governing talent fairies are simply born different. Not through a child's laugh, but through a fallen star. Soon-to-be Queen Clarion is eager to help, but the current leader, Elvina, has made Clarion question herself time and time again. Any trouble in the queendom made her itch with the desire to fix it. Once she'd believed that tendency was a spark of her latent government talent magic. One small piece of the whole that finally made sense to her. But now she understood that her instincts, her compassion, could not be trusted. The Queen of Pixie Hollow does not belong among her subjects. She clearly fears Queen Elvina as well. Listen to this. Letting anyone see her wings was as good as shouting, "Here comes the future Queen of Pixie Hollow." If anyone told Elvina she had been here unattended, no, it did not bear thinking about it. She would have to climb down. Inconvenient, yes. Dangerous, almost certainly. But she preferred by far the risk of falling to enduring another of Elvina's lectures. Everyone else fears the royals as well. Clarion, keeping a low profile, helped a bee and began talking with the animal fairy that was looking after it. She seems like a handful, Clarion observed. Oh, you don't know the half of it. The animal talent shook her head with fond exasperation, then turned to Clarion. That was a kind thing you did. Clarion found herself off guard, and somewhat flustered by the praise. Few fairies ever spoke to her without being addressed first. Elvina exuded a commanding aura that enshrouded Clarion in its protection. It kept her in, yes, but everyone else out. She was woefully out of practice with any sort of small talk. Fighting to keep the formality out of her voice, she said, "It was no trouble at all." "Even so, thank you." The animal talent smile was as warm as summer itself. "I'm sure you're plenty busy without chasing down wayward bees." After the Minister of Summer blew Clarion's cover, the way the animal talent fairy treated her drastically changed. Clarion glanced over at the animal talent, who had gone quite pale. She opened her mouth to say something, anything to put her at ease, but it was too late. She saw the exact moment it dawned on the other fairy, the exact moment her shock slackened into mortification and something like awe. Clarion could hardly bear it. "Princess Clarion," she choked out, "I'm so sorry." Clarion held up her hands placatingly. "There's no need to apologize." "But there is." The animal talent bowed her head deeply. "Your Highness, please forgive me for my impertinence. If I had known," and she never would have spoken to Clarion at all. What else was there to say? Quietly she said, "You're forgiven." The animal talent bowed her head again, murmuring a breathless, "Thank you." She rushed off, back to her work, no doubt, and back to her friends. That familiar ache of loneliness unfurled through her like a collapsing star. For a few precious minutes, Clarion had almost been able to forget who she was. Woof. Very different, obviously, from how she's treated in the present. So this is quite the journey. Quite isolating, as, you know, as they spell out many times. I do like noticing patterns in the approach these stories usually take to combat distrust in leaders when their character is supposed to be, like, one of the good ones. Almost always, you'll see one of the following. The ruler not wanting to rule, or having to combat/change the previous leader's outdated ways. Here, we obviously see both. Governing talents immediately appeared to be OP. In Chapter 2, we hear that they can teleport. Here's to hoping King Bartleby of Bleakwatch didn't develop that power because holy shit. For the record, Clarion cannot teleport. It would be too easy for her to get out of the situations that we see here if that were the case. In the Tinkerbell movie Secret of the Wings, it seemed like the separation between winter and the warm seasons was Queen Clarion's call, but I guess that wasn't the only time this was a rule, because Elvina had discouraged any line of questioning about the winter woods. Even so, winter did not frighten Clarion as much as she knew it should. From the warm, secluded safety of her bedroom, there was just something so peaceful about it. And so terribly lonely. Just like her. This whole book is just Queen Clarion's emo era. We love to see it. Clarion's only friends are Petra and her guard Artemis. And they have romantic tension. What the fuck did I say? In every Tinkerbell book, the gays are present. Disney is playing 3D chess because they know conservatives don't read. Also, this line. Honestly, one of these days, Clarion would orchestrate some sort of intervention. 10 years of pining was long enough. That's just so painful knowing what we know about Clarion and Lord Milori. They pine for hundreds of years. Milori's first appearance is on page 53. It is charged before they even speak. Clarion is at the bridge between autumn and winter, and just the cold alone exhilarates her. The crunch of the snow as he slowly approaches her. And then we have this. Clarion, he repeated. How strange it was to hear her name in his lilting accent. In that voice as cool and smooth as a pane of glass, it made a shiver pass through her, one that had nothing to do with the cold. I'm giggling, I'm twirling my hair, I'm kicking my feet. It is hot in here, even though it's supposed to be cold, you know what I mean? Wait, there's more. Up close, she drank him in anew. Just a side note, I love the phrase, drank him in like a sexually charged sense, but they use that phrase a lot in this book. Drank, drank, drank. I'm just picturing people chugging every 5 seconds. But let's just look at it in this context. Okay, immerse yourself again. Forget what I said. Up close, she drank him in anew. A few stray wisps of hair curled around his pointed ears, but what struck her the most were his arms. Weary with muscle, shut the fuck up, and completely bare beneath his lamb's ear tunic. Ooh. I don't remember that part. Immerse yourself. She couldn't fathom how he wasn't chilled. Passing her hand through the border for one moment had been enough to pierce her to the bone. Would he feel similarly? If he reached toward her, would she be hot to the touch, like holding his hand to a flame? Clarion cleared her throat, determined to end that line of thought. So, okay, I got this candle that shows me what fairy talent I am, and I lit it, and it turned blue, which means I'm a water talent fairy, which makes sense because I'm wet! In chapter 6, a monster that looks like a giant snake attacked the autumn minister and many other fairies with venom that tormented the victims in a restless sleep. Minister! She scrambled to her feet and flew to him. He did not stir at her approach, but his chest rose and fell. Alive. Clarion nearly wept with relief. She knelt at his side and shook him, his expression contorted, not with pain exactly, but fear? His eyes flickered behind their closed lids. It almost looked as though he was having a nightmare. She shook him again, more frantically. Wake up! Unconscious fairies lay in the clearing, a few letting out choked sobs as they slept. How terrifying is that? Panic rose within her. She fluttered to the next fairy besides Rowan and shook her. Wake up! She's trying to wake up people from these terrifying comas. Very briefly, Clarion's star governing magic shined brighter than it ever had, and it was because of her empathy. Contrary to how Elvina trained her chapters before, Elvina told Clarion she had to be as cold and distant like the star they came from. She is accidentally sabotaging her pupil. As Elvina explained, these creatures are called nightmares. They emerge from the winter side, and Clarion is rightfully pissed. Not only because that's where her future boyfriend is, but also her coronation is just a few weeks away, and her teacher is still keeping things from her. I have to be prepared for all eventualities, said Clarion. How can I be prepared if I don't know what I'm up against? This was also after Lord Milori told Clarion that her teacher is keeping shit from her. Even worse, Elvina is planning on destroying the bridge to the winter side, stranding the winter fairies with the nightmares. If Clarion wasn't already questioning the queen, she certainly was now. Now, I didn't mention this part, But back when Clarion met Milori, he said, "If you're interested in solving this problem rather than avoiding it, you know where to find me. I will be waiting here at sunset every night for a week." He studied her face, and the searching intensity of his stare made heat crawl up her neck. Whatever he found made a faint smile curl on his lips. So first of all,
Oh my god.
second of all, she's finally taking the frozen hunksicle up on this 50 pages later. I would have folded so much quicker. Chapter 9 ends with some vulnerability from Lord Milori. He expressed that he wished things were different for him too. And considering his job is keeping the nightmares prisoner, this makes complete sense. Milori was just as lonely as she was. She yearned to rest her head atop his, but she felt anchored in place. For so long she wished for someone to see her, truly see her. Now that someone might, she understood just how terrifying it would feel to allow it, and just how much more complicated that would make this entire mission. I've always wanted things I shouldn't. Never had that felt truer. God damn. Clarion's only friend, a tinker fairy named Petra, made her a coat so Clarion can protect her wings from the winter chill. And on page 151, a stadium packed with just me is cheering, because guess what? Clarion is now officially on the winter side, on a mission with her flirtation ship. Milori extended a hand to her. Clarion could do nothing but stare at it for a few moments. What is this? He held her gaze. Just trust me. Very tentatively, she took it, and was surprised to find that his skin was pleasantly cool. She didn't know what she was expecting, that he would be carved from ice too, that his very touch would freeze her, even through her mittens. No, he was just like her, flesh and bone. Both of them lingered, their hands a bridge between worlds. How beautiful is that? Can I just say that poetry? The book the Keeper and Milori had their eye on for years did react to Clarion's governing magic as they suspected. So, the Keeper, he's seen in The Secret of the Wings movie. He keeps all the winter side's knowledge. Anyway, the book talked about a lost talent that kept the nightmare creatures at bay. This lost magic was called Dream Talent. Like the talent from Bleakwatch? Holy shit, I hope these authors are working together. That would be so cool. I hope it's not just a coincidence, man. I hate to say it, the dream magic is most likely a coincidence, because now they're saying the last of the dream magic is in the governing fairies, because you wish on stars and they're made of stars. Sure. Try not to trouble yourself too much. I'm handling this. That's what Athena said. Of course, Clarion said. But all she could think was, no, I am. Who do you think you are? I am. Milori said she has insanely good aura, so now she believes in herself. Love it. Love to see it. The next time we see Milori, we meet his owl, and the owl is named, I shit you not, Noctua. On a much more serious note, as Clarion was trying to contain the nightmare demons, she was scratched so deeply she needed stitches. While on the owl ride back home, she still had time to thirst after Milori. Realistic and relatable. And the very next day, she's wrapped up in coronation planning. She's just a girl boss that never stops. Atop one of the patch's ornate spider silk lace tablecloths was one of the most decadent spreads Clarion had ever seen. A tiered stand showcased an impressive display of tarts, some filled with thin rounds of squash and tomato, other with slivers of apricots and blackberries. You know, some people say apricots. I think that sounds very fancy. Beside it was a bowl of watermelon gazpacho garnished with a sprig of mint and a drizzle of olive oil. That made me equally as excited as hearing about the romance. So that tone shift did not go unnoticed. And it is acknowledged. Everything burst with the colors and scents of summer. It evoked pure joy. Or it should have. Looking at it all made Clarion feel oddly cold. How could she sit here planning a party after what she had seen in winter? So many fairies depended on her to save them. She is thinking like a queen. Chapter 15, it finally happens. Tongue wrestling. Before this, Milori shares what I already suspected. Clarion needs to release her inhibitions. You seem to access your power easiest when you're trying to protect others. When you're afraid for others but brave enough to act. It will come to you, he said. You were made for this. His reassurance made that voice within her, that nasty self-doubt that had plagued her for weeks, settle and fall quiet. Encouraging, she replied, but hardly practical. Milori considered it for a moment. You said your magic comes to you most easily when you're afraid. Maybe it's not fear, but when you're fully immersed in a moment, whether it's positive or negative. You're suggesting I stop thinking so much? That's awesome. No, don't overthink. You're so sexy. Now I'm going to read you this kiss scene, and forgive me if I get a little shy. It's just so romantic, and I'm so happy for them! He was gazing at her like she was something to marvel at. His expression went soft and unguarded when he noticed her staring back at him, as though he hadn't expected to be caught, but did not mind it overmuch. There was no mistaking the wide-open yearning in his eyes. He had looked at her like this once before, she realized. The very first time she'd crossed into winter. She wondered exactly how long he had wanted to kiss her, and felt very foolish indeed for being so oblivious. And yet, Milori sat as if frozen. Snow fell only an inch away from her in a glittering, tantalizing whirl. This close to the border, to him, her breath was a soft plume of white in the air. Clarion shifted closer until the cold washed over one shoulder, then the shell of her ear. It was a strange sensation, half of her safe in the warm seasons, half of her nipped with the cold. Carefully, almost reverently, she let her fingertips trace the line of his jaw and tipped his face towards hers. The space she held between them was a question, one he answered readily. His hand came to cradle the side of her neck, and although his touch chilled her skin, warmth flooded through her. Clarion leaned fully into Winter and kissed him. As his lips moved against hers, something bubbled up within her like spring water until it spilled over completely. Happiness. Get your mind out of the gutter. Happiness, she thought, far purer than any she had ever felt, and magic. She felt it trilling in her bones and weaving through her fingertips, eager to apply itself. This time it did not feel like something she had to master. It felt like a river, like a deep and inexhaustible well. It flowed forth until her entire body radiated a soft golden light. Milori drew back, just barely. His forehead rested against hers as they shared the same tremulous breath. Her eyes fluttered open, and she could have sworn that the stars above shone brighter. Their brilliance was reflected in the pale gray of his eyes, and sparkled all around them, as though the constellations had been drawn down to earth. Pixie dust glimmered on her eyelashes and the sleeves of her gown. It danced joyfully through the air, and gathered in Milori's hair like snowfall, painting all the world in gold. Had she done this? When he spoke, his voice was low and full of wonder. You're incredible. For perhaps the first time, she believed it. My apologies for my incredulence, dude. Dude, that was really incredulent of me. I still don't know what that word means. Wait 1 second. That doesn't apply at all. I thought it meant informal. Well, I gotta start looking up words instead of assuming I know what they mean. Page 251 is when things get painfully Shakespearean. Even when they supposedly trap the nightmares for good, being happy would just be too boring. We need conflict. My coronation is in just over a week, Milori. Our duties as rulers will keep us apart from one another. Her words landed like a sucker punch, sending him reeling. Milori shook his head just barely. She could see he wanted to argue, but he only said, I see. I like you, she continued breathlessly. Far, far too much. Then I don't understand why. It scares me. I do not believe I've been subtle about it, but I feel I should tell you I like you too. I love that Milori, so earnest, so unflowery, just stops her dead in her tracks of being like pretentious and weird about everything. I feel as though I have not been subtle, but I like you too. It literally snaps her out of it. She starts hysterically laughing. She's like, Okay, we're dating, whatever. There are a whole 70 pages between the first and second kiss. But listen to this. What else was there to do? She stood on her toes and kissed him. For a moment they remained suspended in a sort of tender disbelief. Then his lips parted beneath hers, and Clarion felt herself catch flame. She tasted cocoa and cinnamon on her tongue. Good flavors. Swallowed the hitch of his breath as she melted into him. His fingers threaded the hair at the nape of her neck, angling her chin up towards him as he deepened the kiss. Guys, he fucking deepened the kiss. The pins holding her flower crown in place came loose, showering the earth at her feet with white petals and sweet pollen. His every touch set her nerves alight with both languid heat and searing cold. Breathless, she pulled back, but even that small distance pained her. How she resented her own limitations right now, her body's inability to tolerate his realm for too long. I'm freezing. We can't have that. His lips brushed against hers with every syllable. We can't have that. Love that shit. Eat that. But chapter 19 ends with Queen Elvina catching the lovebirds. I knew it was coming, but it still made me cringe so much. Elvina and Clarion get into a screaming match. Fucking Petra, Clarion's best friend, snitched on her when she just could have gotten ass from Artemis instead, and the nightmares obviously aren't contained like they thought they were. The moment they saw the victims weren't cured from their stress dreams and they were still in the coma, they should have known it didn't work. But that's why this book is almost 400 pages long, and I read it in a day. Petra does end up redeeming herself. Turns out she tinkered pixie dust arrows that are pretty effective against the nightmares, and more importantly, Petra and Artemis followed Clarion to the winter side to help her fight the nightmares. That's pretty ballsy, and you gotta respect that. In chapter 21, Clarion vaporized the nightmares through the rage she felt watching Artemis and Petra fall into a coma. Petra! It's like when Aang goes sicko mode, but listen to this. In chapter 22, we already knew what was coming because we heard about it in Secret of the Wings. Remember that movie? Clarion collapsed, freezing cold. Milori goes to Summer, unprotected, to save her, but his wings melt as a result. And the way they made it sounded brutally painful. Queen Elvina admitted she was wrong about everything. Finally. And side note, she's dying. She must return to the stars like all the leaders before her. For whatever reason, she waited till now to tell Clarion. I'm sorry, Clarion. Elvina's voice wavered. There are so many things I should have told you. I should have told you sooner, but I didn't know how. Yup. She was begging you to tell her things this entire book. You had fucking 400 pages. But it still sucks, as problematic as she is, because she kind of is like a motherly figure to Clarion, so Clarion's very upset. She can't catch a break. Since no one is waking up from the coma still, Clarion knew there was still the leader of the nightmares, so she jumped into the frozen lake that's the nightmare's prison, and that made me gasp. She immediately had a nightmare. Predictable. For whatever reason, she couldn't identify it as one. I was yelling, "Wake up! Wake up!" But the only voice she reacted to was Milori, and she annihilated that nightmare dragon. The dragon bellowed strand by strand the horror and doubt that made it unravel. Threads of darkness unspooled, crumbling into ashes as they floated through the air. In the end, nothing but this remained. Twinkling motes of starlight, transforming what had lain empty into the brilliance of the night sky. I can barely comprehend anything you're saying, dude. Once again, painfully Shakespearean. This girl is determined to be miserable. Listen to this. I will ensure the world we both dreamed of exists, but no one else should have to endure what we have. Crossing the border is too dangerous. It should be forbidden, effective immediately. That is not the world you dreamed of, dog. That is not at all. Fucking Clarion. Jesus. Clarion's best friends, Petra and Artemis, finally kiss, and the timing being right after her own separation. Damn, dude. Wait a minute, does this mean the lesbians get the happily ever after? And the straights get the lifelong angst and longing? Okay, equal rights. Okay, subversion of expectations. I fucking loved this book, but now I want to see them back together after the movie. I was so hoping we'd get like a scene that cut to the future and they're both like sipping coffee or whatever it is that fairies drink in the morning, and they're just reflecting. They're like, how silly we've been. Now we have sex whenever we want. Fairy sex. You want to hear about it? Get the second book. I really hope you enjoyed this video. I understand I brought maybe even more feral energy to the table, and for that I do apologize. Subscribe if you enjoyed. Be sure to check out the first Tinkerbell lore video if you haven't already, because I was referencing things maybe you didn't even know about. Have a good one, butt lovers. I'll see you in the next one. Next week we are ranking crash outs. Kind of appropriate, given everything you've seen from me right now.